She doesn't need to shout, the silent power of female cunning. Not every weapon is loud. Some are quiet, soft-spoken, wrapped in sweetness. We grow up thinking power looks like strength, volume, force. But some of the most powerful people in the world don't raise their voices at all. Renée Decat studied this. She explored the psychology of feminine influence, not in stories or stereotypes, but in real life where women learn early on that control doesn't always come from pushing. Sometimes it comes from knowing exactly how to pull. This is where cunning begins, not as evil, not as deception, but as strategy. Because throughout history, many women didn't have the power to fight openly. They weren't given space to speak, to lead, to move freely. So they adapted. They learned to read emotions. They watched body language. They listened between the words. And when they wanted something, they didn't confront it. They shaped the room until the room gave it to them. Cunning isn't always a plan. It's often a feeling. A woman senses what you want, what you fear, what makes you hesitate. And if she chooses to, she can work around it or through it. Decat argued that this quiet skill can be used in two ways, to protect or to manipulate. Because if a woman is hurt, scared, or insecure, this gift becomes a weapon. Not to build trust, but to create control. She doesn't shout. She withdraws. She doesn't attack. She doubts you out loud until you start to doubt yourself. She doesn't ask. She just makes you feel guilty for not offering. And if you're not aware, you won't even notice it's happening. You'll just feel like you're always chasing peace, even though you don't know what went wrong. This is why understanding the dark side of female psychology isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Because once you see it, you stop blaming yourself for the emotional confusion. You stop feeling like you're the one always falling short. You realize someone is pulling the strings behind the silence. But this isn't about hate. This is about balance. Because when a woman feels safe, when she respects the man in front of her, she doesn't need to play games. She doesn't need to twist words or push emotional buttons. She speaks. She trusts. She stays clear. But when she doesn't, when she feels she can't get what she needs by being direct, that's when cunning steps in. And if you don't know what that looks like, you'll lose yourself trying to keep her calm, keep her close, keep her happy. Even if she's the one slowly creating the storm. Renée Decat saw this clearly. She believed female cunning wasn't something to fear, but something to respect, and something every man should recognize. Because if you can't see it, you can't protect yourself from it. And more importantly, you won't be able to tell the difference between a woman who's building with you and a woman who's using you. Emotional leverage, the quiet tactics of control. Most manipulation doesn't look like control. It looks like caring. It sounds like confusion. It feels like love that you just can't seem to get right. But Renée Decat warned, control often hides in kindness. And when a woman doesn't feel powerful, or when she's learned to survive through emotional advantage, she reaches for what works. Not threats, not demands, but emotional tactics that slowly pull you in until you're doing things not because you want to, but because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. Here are the most common forms of emotional control she identified. 1. Guilt without words. She doesn't accuse you. She just looks hurt. She says things like, "You can go if you want, it's fine." Or worse, she says nothing, but you feel the cold shift in the room. Now you're explaining yourself, apologizing, pulling back from what you wanted just to make her feel better. It wasn't a direct request, but it worked. That's guilt used as leverage. 2. Passive comparison. She mentions someone else, not to praise them, but to place them beside you. "My ex used to always call me back, even when he was busy. Emma's boyfriend took her on a trip just because." She's not asking for more. She's reminding you that someone else already gave it. And suddenly you're not showing love. You're performing. Decat saw this not as a game, but as a test. A way to shift the emotional weight without taking responsibility for the pressure. 3. Selective silence. This one is subtle. You say something. She doesn't react. Not cold, just quiet. But something changes. You feel like you've said the wrong thing. You start over-explaining, trying to fix it, trying to get the warmth back. She's not yelling. She's not leaving. But the silence has become a tool. She knows that your discomfort will do the work for her. 4. Rewriting reality. You remember what happened. The words, the tone, the facts. She remembers something else and insists on it. "I never said that. You're imagining things. That's not what I meant at all." And now you're not just unsure of the moment. You're unsure of yourself. This is often unconscious. It's not always a lie. but it's still a form of control, shifting your grip on reality until it matches what she needs it to be. 5. Emotional exhaustion. She brings up the same issue again and again. Sometimes directly, sometimes as a side comment, sometimes buried in a joke. And eventually you give in. Not because you've changed your mind, but because you're just tired of fighting. This isn't negotiation. It's slow pressure. And over time it works. Decat pointed out, many women aren't even fully aware they're doing this. They've just learned that persistence, softness, and indirect pressure often work better than confrontation. So what do? You don't fight it with anger. You don't shame her. You don't play the same game in reverse. You recognize it, and then you respond with truth. Not defensiveness. Not emotional retreat. Just calm awareness. I feel like you're using silence instead of telling me what's wrong. If you need something from me, just say it. I'm open. Please don't compare me to someone else. It doesn't help us grow. This is how you disarm the game without making her feel like the enemy. Because at the core of most manipulation is insecurity. And at the core of most emotional cunning is a fear that being direct won't get the result she wants. When you respond with honesty, presence, and boundaries, you teach her something new. She doesn't need tactics to be heard. Why cunning develops, the roots of emotional control, and the role you play in it. We often think manipulation starts with bad intention. That someone uses emotional tactics because they're selfish, cruel, or trying to dominate. But Renée Decat saw it differently. She believed most emotional control doesn't start from strength, but from fear. And that fear is usually tied to one deep belief. I won't get what I need if I ask for it directly. So the woman adapts. She becomes skilled in implied meaning, emotional reactions, nonverbal influence. She gets what she needs, not by force, but by shaping the space around her. Decat called this emotional survival psychology, and it's more common than most men realize. Where does it begin? It often starts early. As a girl, she learns that being direct doesn't always work. If she cries too loudly, she's dramatic. If she speaks up, she's difficult. If she pushes, she's punished. But if she stays soft, silent, strategic, things move in her favor. She's not trying to hurt anyone. She's trying to protect her sense of control. And because it works, she keeps doing it. But here's the deeper truth. Some women use emotional cunning because they've never been met with a man strong enough to handle full honesty. If she was open in the past, and the man avoided, dismissed, or collapsed under her truth, she learned, it's safer to control him than to trust him. This is where many men get confused. They think they're being nice. They think they're doing the right thing by always agreeing, apologizing, staying calm. But to a woman who doesn't feel emotionally safe, passivity feels like weakness. And weakness invites manipulation. Because if she senses you won't lead, she will. Not because she wants to, because someone has to. And now, without knowing it, you're feeding the very behavior you think is unfair. The passive man and the birth of control. Let's break it down. As she tests you emotionally, you back off to keep the peace. She senses you're uncomfortable with confrontation. She stops being direct. As she starts using emotional signals instead, you react to those signals. She gets what she wants. It becomes a cycle. At first, it looks like love, but it's not real connection. It's emotional management. You're trying to keep her stable. She's trying to keep you involved. And neither of you is actually saying what's real. Decat warned, the longer a woman feels she can only express through reaction, the less she trusts the man beside her. You might think you're being kind, but if your softness means avoiding tension, you are slowly being trained. Trained to read her moods. Trained to adjust your actions to avoid guilt. Trained to doubt your gut. And the worst part? She's not doing it to be cruel. She's doing it because she doesn't feel your strength. And no woman, no matter how emotionally intelligent, wants to be the only one steering the emotional ship, where the responsibility lies. So where does that leave you? It means you have to be honest. Not just with her, but with yourself. Are you being passive to avoid conflict? Are you allowing subtle control because you're afraid to lose her? Are you ignoring your instincts because you don't want to seem harsh? These choices feel small in the moment, but over time, they teach her something damaging. He's not strong enough for my truth. And when she believes that, she stops being open and starts being strategic. Renée Decat believed that cunning often emerges when honesty doesn't feel like an option. And that's not always her fault. It's the result of the dynamic between both of you. How to shift the pattern. The good news? You can change the dynamic without aggression and without games. Start with this. 1. Make emotional space safe again. Tell her, You don't need to hint. I'm listening. Say it how it is. Then prove it by staying calm when she's honest. 2. Stop reacting to emotional tactics. If she's silent to get a response, pause. Then say, I notice you're quiet. Is there something we need to talk about? This teaches her that silence won't control you, but truth will connect you. 3. Take back your spine. That means saying no when needed. Holding to your word. Not being cruel, but not folding to pressure either. A strong man doesn't resist a woman's feelings. He holds space for them without getting swallowed by them. And when you show her that, she slowly drops the tactics. Because now, finally, she trusts you with the truth. The faces of cunning, how different women use emotional control in different ways. Not all emotional manipulation looks the same. It wears different masks. Sometimes it looks like sweetness. Sometimes like independence. Sometimes like chaos. Sometimes like calm. Renée Decat believed that cunning is not a single trait. It's a pattern of emotional strategy based on fear, experience, and power dynamics. Different women use it in different ways, but the goal is the same: emotional control when direct honesty feels risky. Let's walk through the 4 common types Decat described, the ones most men encounter, but rarely recognize until they're already pulled in. 1. The anxious manipulator, fear wrapped in care. This woman seems loving, warm, always checking in. She remembers the little things. She wants to be close. But it's not just love, it's fear. She's afraid of being abandoned. And so, without realizing it, she tries to control you through emotional closeness. As she texts often but gets cold if you don't reply fast. She gives a lot but brings it up later if you pull back. As she talks about her past hurt so you feel guilty even thinking about leaving. This woman doesn't want to hurt you, but her fear makes her cling. And that clinging comes with control. She won't always ask directly. She'll hint. She'll cry. She'll say, you're different lately, even if nothing's changed. You'll start adjusting your behavior not because you want to, but because it's just easier than dealing with her emotional reaction. This is emotional labor in disguise. You're being made responsible for her stability. And over time, you lose your freedom. How to break it? Don't attack. Don't vanish. But don't bend. Instead say, you're safe with me, but I need space to breathe too. Set emotional boundaries clearly, kindly, and firmly. Because anxious cunning fades when you don't feed it with fear. 2. The cool girl strategist, hidden control through detachment. At first, she seems chill, low maintenance, not jealous, not dramatic. You think, finally, a woman who doesn't play games. But then things feel off. You start chasing her approval. You start guessing what she wants. You start trying to impress her without ever being asked to. That's the trick. She doesn't demand. She just withholds. Withholds affection. Withholds praise. Withholds availability until you adjust yourself to get it. She's not emotional. She's strategic. And you're drawn in because her distance makes you feel like earning her attention equals worth. This is reverse manipulation. She controls by making you work for crumbs. And somehow, she still looks like the one who's easy to be with. Decat saw this as a defense mechanism, a way to avoid vulnerability by always staying one step less invested than you. It keeps her in control, and keeps you working harder than you should. To break the spell, call it out. Don't chase. Say, I don't compete for attention. If you're in, be in. If you're out, I'll be fine. And mean it. This stops the game cold because it forces her to show up for real or walk away. 3. The high control organizer, love as management. This woman loves to plan, to lead, to take care of you. At first, it feels amazing. She brings order. She brings clarity. She remembers what you forget. But soon, that care turns into control. She comments on how you dress. She reminds you how you should behave. She subtly makes you feel like without her, your life would fall apart. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to manage her environment, because deep down, unpredictability scares her. But what she can't control with strength, she controls with care. And the cost? You begin to shrink, to question your own decisions, to lose the edge that once made you a man who led. You start following her emotional schedule, because it's easier than constantly pushing back. This isn't a relationship. It's a quiet power structure. How to change it? Reclaim responsibility. Say, I appreciate your care, but I need to lead in my own life. You don't need to organize me, I am already handling it. Be kind, but be firm. If you don't hold your own ground, she'll keep covering it, and she won't respect you for it. 4. The victim controller, sympathy as a weapon. This one is hard to spot because she doesn't seem powerful. She seems wounded. You feel protective around her. You feel like you need to be careful with her heart. Like one wrong word could shatter her. And if you ever try to step away, she breaks down. Tears. Sad stories. Emotional collapses. You feel cruel even thinking of creating space. And that's the trap. She uses her pain as a way to keep you close. Every time you try to have a hard conversation, you end up comforting her instead. Every time you bring up a boundary, you end up apologizing for hurting her feelings. Decat warned, this dynamic creates emotional dependency, and it's exhausting. The moment you feel like you're in charge of someone else's healing, you stop being a partner. You become a caretaker. That is not love. That is quiet emotional control. How do you shift it? Don't take the bait. Say, I care deeply, but I can't be your reason for feeling okay. If we're going to grow, we both need to stand on our own feet. Hard truth, but a clean one. Because if she's really capable of love, she'll rise to meet it. If she's not, you've just saved yourself years of confusion. One pattern, many faces. Each of these types looks different, but the core is the same. A woman using indirect control because direct truth either doesn't feel safe or doesn't get her what she wants. And if you're not grounded, you'll be pulled into it. Not out of weakness, but out of habit. Decat believed that once you recognize the patterns, you stop being a target. You become a mirror. A man with presence, boundaries, and the kind of quiet strength that makes emotional games unnecessary. Facing the cunning, responding with power without losing your soul. You've seen it now. The way emotional control can slip beneath the surface. How it doesn't always look cruel. Sometimes it looks like care. Sometimes like charm. Sometimes like silence. Renée Decat believed the most dangerous thing about female cunning is not the woman, it's the man who doesn't see it. Because if you don't recognize what's happening, you'll slowly trade your intuition for anxiety. You'll start moving through the relationship on her terms. Not because you're weak, but because you've been conditioned to believe that keeping her calm is the same as keeping her close. But it's not. It's the beginning of losing yourself. So the question is, how do you respond once you see it? Not with control. Not with games. Not with fear. You respond with something most men forget they even have: presence. Boundaries. Calm authority. Step 1. Stop playing along. You cannot beat manipulation by out-manipulating her. You cannot outsmart a game you shouldn't be in. The moment you sense emotional pressure, step back. Ask yourself, what is being asked of me here? Is this about connection or control? Am I choosing this or just reacting? You don't need to argue. You need to observe. Because the minute you stop reacting, you take back your power. Say less. Watch more. Let her words land, but respond from a grounded place. That alone disarms half the pattern. Step 2. Speak directly to the behavior. Not with blame. Not with aggression. With clarity. I notice that when I disagree, you shut down. I don't respond well to being compared to other people. If you want something, just say it. I'm not here to read signals. No shame. No guilt. Just truth. This kind of honesty is rare and powerful. It might trigger her at first. But over time, if she respects you, she'll adapt. Because most emotional tactics exist in the space where no one calls them out. Bring them into the light gently, directly, and they lose their grip. Step 3. Hold your boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. This is where most men fail. They see the manipulation. They say something. But when she cries or pulls away or flips the script, they fold. You must not fold. Your boundary is only as strong as your willingness to lose the relationship for it. That doesn't mean you want to lose her. It means you refuse to lose yourself in her. You must be willing to say, if being with you means accepting emotional control, I'd rather be alone. And mean it. Only then will she feel your full presence. Not as a threat, but as something she can finally trust. Because if you don't protect your peace, you teach her that her instability matters more than your truth. And that is not love. That is emotional captivity. Step 4. Stay soft but solid. The goal isn't to fight her. It's to stay yourself around her. That means staying open, kind, curious, but unshakable. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to dominate. You just need to stop apologizing for being grounded. A woman can either meet that energy with trust, or she'll try to shape it with control. And that's when you make the final call. What if she doesn't change? Then you walk, not in anger, not to punish, but because you love yourself too much to stay in a dynamic where love means confusion, pressure, or control. Renée Decat believed that the strongest thing a man can do is love with a full heart and a clear mind. To see clearly and still care deeply. That's real strength. That's real masculine energy. That's what ends the cycle. Because here's the final truth. You don't fix a cunning woman. You reveal her by staying in your integrity. You let her choose whether to rise with you or stay in the games. But you don't lose yourself either way. Final reflection, the only way to be free. There will always be women who control through emotion. Not because they're bad, but because the world taught them that softness alone wouldn't be enough. You're not here to judge that. You're here to see it, hold your center, and choose what you allow. Because love without clarity turns into obedience. And love without boundaries becomes confusion. But when you lead with strength, calm, clean, open, you don't just protect your soul. You invite her to drop the games and meet you in something far more real. Connection. Respect. Trust. And if she can't meet you there, you'll walk away with peace, because now, finally, you see the game. And you no longer play it. What to watch next? If this opened your eyes, you'll want to keep going. In the next video, we'll explore how emotionally manipulative women target weak men, and how to stop being one. Because once you stop being easy to control, you stop attracting the ones who need to control. Until then, stay grounded, stay kind, stay true, and never trade your peace for a piece of someone else's power. We're just getting started, brother. Let me know when you're ready for the next one.